Hey, what's up, everybody? It's a big night tonight in the sports world. UFC will be kicking off with their first pay-per-view of the year, UFC 246, and I just wanted to get into a preview, basically, of the main event that has the return of the Notorious Conor McGregor taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And I just wanted to go over what I think each fighter may need to do to secure the victory, and just a little bit of the history of how the main event came out to be. So, everybody knows, well, who follows UFC, Conor McGregor, big time. You know, he's been a two-weight world champion at 145 pounds, 155 pounds. He boxed Floyd Mayweather a couple years ago in one of the biggest crossover events ever between MMA, well, the biggest crossover event ever, in MMA versus boxing. He's made a ton of money for the sport consistently over the past, past decade. He's been the most consistent draw for the sport that they've had really ever. And, you know, he's just biggest name in MMA. Then on the other side, you have Cowboy Cerrone, who is one of the most consistent, I don't think it's an argument now that he's the most consistent fighter in MMA history, especially for UFC. He got the record for most UFC wins, most UFC finishes, so we in for a good fight tonight. Now, this all started between them. I want to say it was the 2014 UFC Go Big press conference. It might have been 2015, I don't know. Heck, it might have been 2016, but around, those years. Conor McGregor had just become the interim featherweight champion, and he was going set to face Jose Aldo for the undisputed featherweight championship. And Donald Cowboy Cerrone, he was set to have a rematch with Rafael dos Anjos at 155. And basically what happened at that day was Conor and Cowboy basically got into a back and forth. I mean, Conor was going back and forth with pretty much everybody on the stage. But what stood out to most was the interaction between Cowboy and Conor that, garnered pretty much the most attention. And ever since then, a lot of people wanted that fight. Now, the fight was pretty much close to happening because McGregor had already told the UFC his intentions of wanting to move up to 155 after he wins the 145 championship. And Cowboy, since he was already set to face Rafael dos Anjos for the 155 title, that would have pretty much put them on a collision course against each other had they both won their respective fights. Now, McGregor, at that time, he was able to cash in on his promise of winning the 45-pound championship. Cerrone just happened to be unsuccessful against Dos Anjos that day, so the fight didn't come to be then. Now, the crazy thing is, Rafael dos Anjos pulled out of that fight, and Cerrone was actually available to step in for Dos Anjos. And it might have been a interim bout for the title, I don't know. But yeah, regardless, the fight was pretty much there on the table. But Conor McGregor opted to fight Nate Diaz, and that was a whole nother huge chapter of the story of Conor McGregor in the UFC. Time has passed since then. Like I mentioned earlier, Conor McGregor has become a two-weight world champion. He went on to fight Floyd Mayweather, one of the biggest, and pretty much the biggest pay-per-view in combat sports history. Since then, Cerrone has broken almost all, the most records for, most in UFC, most wins, most finishes. Both fighters, although they've had some losses in between, since then they've both been on pretty big roles through their careers. So, honestly, the fight now may be bigger than what it would have been back then. Easily, if you ask me. So now, finally, McGregor has decided to return after about a 2-year absence after his last fight with Khabib where he was unsuccessful. Cerrone, he's coming off a knockout loss to Justin Gaethje. So both fighters are looking for pretty much redemption in this fight and to get back on track and hopefully get back into title contention at 155. Even though both fighters decided to fight at 170, which McGregor has already also left open the door at that weight class too, saying that he's interested in fights with fighters Jorge Masvidal, who just won the BMF belt against Nate Diaz, and UFC welterweight world champion Kamaru Usman. Now, as for the fight tonight, like I said, I wanted to get into a preview and what I kind of want to see from each fighter and how I think they can win. Now, I'll go to Cerrone first because I feel like he has a little bit more ways of going about the fight than McGregor does, per se. Now, a lot of people are saying that Cerrone has the grappling advantage and advantage on the ground, and he should immediately take this fight to the ground. Now, I see why a lot of people say that because, it's well documented that he has a good submission game, good jiu-jitsu game, and Conor, all of his losses have come by submission. So history would pretty much tell you that that is probably the best way for a Cerrone to go to the ground. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as a lot of people are making it seem for him to just take Conor McGregor down. Because when you saw the fight against Khabib, although Khabib was able to take down McGregor like he does all of his opponents, other than him, McGregor hasn't really been able to, he hasn't really been like ragdolled or slammed around like a lot of people want to make it seem. I mean, he went against a wrestler in Eddie Alvarez and was able to destroy him en route to winning the 155-pound title. He went against Chad Mendez, one of the best wrestlers in 145-pound history, and was able to get back up on his feet and secure the KO. Besides Khabib, who is the best grappler just about in, I'll say the best wrestler just about in MMA history, no one's really been able to dominate him on the ground. Now, what I think Cerrone's approach should be, since it's documented that he is a slow starter, I feel that what a lot of people don't take advantage of is McGregor's wide karate stance. He likes to kind of hop around, hop back on his feet, back and forth, squeak in, squeak out, hit you with quick jabs to set up, the knockout from either his left hand or the right hand. I think Cerrone, who's a very gifted striker in his own right, should attack the legs with low kicks. I mean, even if you look at the fight with Eddie Alvarez and McGregor, the one successful thing that Eddie did have throughout that fight was hitting McGregor with low kicks. McGregor wasn't checking a lot of them, and he was even stumbling from a good number of them. Now, I feel like since Cerrone's a slow starter, in the beginning he should keep his distance, kind of fade back a little bit, not let McGregor get in too close, because that's where Conor is most dangerous. And yeah, just attack low, hit the leg kicks. And with McGregor, if you limit his mobility, that takes away his slick head movement, his footwork, and it makes him an easier target when you're in exchanges with him. Boxing exchanges, to the point where he's not as dangerous as he would be hopping around in each area and able to just slip in and out with no problem. You saw that in the Volkanovski fight with Max Holloway. Volkanovski was attacking the legs the entire time, and that was able to keep Max Holloway, who's one of the most elite strikers in UFC right now, pretty much in one spot and able to be hit. So I think that if Cerrone takes a similar approach like that, that can prolong the fight. And, the type of fighter Cerrone is, he gets stronger as the fight goes. And I think that would just help his chances later on. And then I think that would leave, more opportunity for him later to implement his groundwork and possibly get McGregor to the ground and get a submission and win the fight. Or even close to a decision, Because I think if it gets to rounds 4 and 5, Cerrone has a very distinct advantage. We've seen McGregor slow down in a lot of his fights. Especially, Nate Diaz fights. We've seen him gas out. And when fights go after, I think, round 2 or round 3, his knockout percentage drops, like, heavily. So I think if Cerrone can, like I said, attack the legs early on, keep his distance, not getting to any dangerous boxing exchanges in the beginning, then I think that can help him win the fight. Now, as for Conor, I think he should do, the exact opposite. I think he should try to get in real close, similar to how Gaethje did with Cerrone, because Cerrone keeps his hands down pretty low. He doesn't really protect his chin area too much. And with McGregor being the sniper he is, I think that would just play right into his hands. I think if he just gets in close, uses his agility, the head movement, I think boxing, pure boxing, just hands, no kicking involved, that McGregor is the superior boxer, and that if he can just get in close, especially early on, and just kind of blitz Cerrone, not recklessly, but, kind of what McGregor's style is. He's a sniper. He's pretty precise and accurate with his shots. I feel that if he can do that early on, get in close, kind of catch Cerrone off guard. Well, he won't be off guard. I think he's expecting it. But, just blitz him early and getting to some quick boxing exchanges, get Cerrone to bang with him early, then McGregor could win the fight pretty quickly and be able to score a knockout. Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on the fight. I don't really want to give a solid prediction on this one because this is always one of the fights I felt is kind of 50-50. So I'm really not sure how it will go. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think, who you may think is going to win, how you think either should approach the fight, and I hope you guys enjoy tonight. Have a good day.